Hello, hello, everyone. How are we today? Let's see who is joining us. Let's see. Girl, I got you is here bright and early, ready and waiting there, I'm guessing, but welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Just going to get my nails ready to go here while we're still waiting for people to jump on in. And welcome in Janica, Alexandrina, Ellie. How you guys doing? Melissa. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hopefully you guys are having a beautiful Monday. Having a wonderful day. Hopefully you're doing some fun nails today. Having a great day today. And like I said, I'm just getting some nails ready to go here, getting them kind of prepped. And let's see, Girl I Got You says, quick question, how do I get my nails to grow out? Well, it kind of depends on what's going on. Are you a nail biter? Are you trying to grow out maybe some damage to your nails? A lot of different possibilities that could be going on, and why you're wanting to grow them out. But if you are just wanting to keep just your natural nails, honestly, my best recommendation is fiber gel. And we've got a whole bunch of different colors of the fiber gel, but fiber gel is a great product to just put over your natural nails to help you get a little bit more, to grow out a little bit more length. So yeah, that'd be my first suggestion, but I probably would need to know a little bit more. But let's get into our demo that we've got for today. And today we're actually going to be using a whole bunch of our different full cover tips. Now you guys, in past live streams, you guys have seen me use the square. You've seen me, I think I've used the Coffin, I think I've used the Stiletto, and I think I've used the Almond. But today I'm going to do one of each for you guys because there's some little kind of differences between all of these different tips and how you size them out. So I'm actually going to do 4 nails. So we're calling it a full hand on our trainer hand. I generally don't work on the thumb because it's just kind of at a weird angle for camera and things like that. So we're going to do 4 different nails here for you guys today. We're going to do our application, and then we'll see how time goes. Maybe we'll throw in, I would love to throw in a little design here for you guys as well. But when our client first comes in, we're going to start with our prep. And let me kind of resituate here. So when I do my prep, when I'm working with tips, so if I'm working with the full cover tips, I start my prep with 2 things. I start with pushing back the cuticles, and then I also shorten up the nails. Now, when I'm doing this, this is also my time to have my consultation with my client so that I can figure out exactly what she's wanting to do on her nails. So while I'm pushing back the nails, or sorry, when I'm pushing back the cuticles, I'm asking my client what we're going to do, and she's going to say, we're going to do full cover today. So we're going to do a set of full cover. So that leads me to my next step, is to be doing, or is to shorten up my nails. Now, depending on what service you want to do, you may or may not need to shorten up the nails. If you are doing full cover tips, if you're doing quarter well tips, if you're sculpting, those are all times where I would go through and shorten up the nails. Now, if she just wants an overlay, something just on her natural nails, I definitely would not be shortening up the nails. So make sure that as you're pushing back those cuticles, that's when you're taking the time to start your consultation and figure out what your client is going to want on her nails. Now, after I shorten these up, and you guys, we're going to talk about kind of why we shorten up the nails when we put on tips or sculpting the nails. But really just kind of briefly, I like to shorten them up so that they don't interfere with my tip application or my form application. Again, just depending on what service we're doing. So the longer those natural nails are, the more they tend to interfere with applying a tip. And as that nail grows out and you have a lot more free edge, that free edge can be maybe not quite such a perfect shape. So it might not fit perfectly under the well of the tip that we're going to adhere. So that's why I always like to go through and shorten up the natural nails so that, again, I have less kind of interference with that natural nail when we put our tips on. And I'm just giving them a quick shaping. I'm not really making sure that they're 100% perfect in their shaping. I'm just kind of cleaning up those edges so that we don't have kind of a frayed free edge or anything like that. Okay, now that is basically the start to our prep. And again, this was the time that I was going through talking with my client about what they're going to want on their nails. So our client today, she wants all different nails. Now, you guys, normally your clients aren't going to choose all different lengths and shapes, but I do want to show you some different tips today. So that's why we're going to be sizing out all 4 of our different shapes and sizes here. So we've got our full cover almond, again, our full cover stiletto, full cover coffin, and then full cover extra long square. So I think maybe we'll start with the XL square, just because I think it'll be easier to have that one on our pointer finger here. So now notice at this point, I haven't gone through and prepped the rest of that natural nail. I'm going to wait to use my electric file all at the same time. So I'm going to prep that natural nail. I'm going to prep the well of the tips. So this way I'm not picking up and putting down and picking up and putting down my tools. I can just size out my tips and then get those ready to go and then kind of do everything all at once. It's a little bit of a speed technique. So we're going to size out our nail here and we're going to check. I think I'm going to start with, we'll start with a size 3 on there. Now, you guys, as you get more comfortable sizing out tips, you're going to kind of start to be able to look at that nail and see approximately what size that is so that you can kind of start at around that size. Now, I know that this tip or this finger is not going to be a size 0. That would just be way too big. So I know I'm not going to start there. So I kind of start kind of right in the middle. And again, this is a size 3. Now, when you're sizing out your tips are going to be a little bit different from one style to the next. So this one is this is our extra long square. So these are going to fit just a little bit differently than the rest of them. So when I choose my size for this one, it may not be the same size in all styles of tips. So kind of keep that in mind if you are changing your client's shaping, if you're putting a different shape of tip on. Make sure that you're not just automatically grabbing that size that you had maybe from the square and now you want to change to a stiletto. Again, it may not be that same size. So always size out your tips and make sure that they are the correct size. Now, how do we size our tip? Well, first thing you're going to check is, does that tip fit that C curve? So the curve of the natural nail, does that fit the curve of that tip that you're going to be gluing on? So you can kind of look at them kind of down the barrel and you can see, does that well or does that C curve, does that curve of the nail fit all the way through here? So that's the first thing I'm always going to check. The second thing is, does it fit from sidewall to sidewall nice and easily? Or do I have to press that tip down? Or does a lot of that hang off? Now you can kind of see on this one, it does kind of hang off a little bit. So to me, that's showing me that this tip is going to be a little bit on the large side. Now it does fit that well pretty nicely, but we're going to check a size smaller just to make sure, okay? Because on a smaller size, maybe one size smaller, we'll go to a size 4. It might still fit that C curve really well, but it might not hang off quite as much. And that's actually what I'm seeing with this one. So this is a size 4. And I'm really kind of liking how this one is fitting. It feels like I don't have to really use a lot of pressure to apply that. It's going to fit that well, or that C curve really nicely, and it's not going to hang off too much. So I think I like this one a little bit more than our size 3. So I'm going to put my 3 back. I am still going to check one size smaller with a size 5, just to make sure. Now the size 5, I think I could probably get away with a size 5, but as I press down, do you guys notice that when I kind of release that, do you see how it kind of pops back up? It's not just sitting there flat down onto the nail like our size 4. So the size 4 I feel like is going to be a better fit in our C curve, whereas the smaller size, the size 5, feels like it's just going to be a little too tight and I would have to use a little bit more pressure than what I want. Now, when you're applying tips with a glue, just a regular thin glue, you don't really necessarily have to worry about having any extra space underneath the tip. But today we're going to be using our tip and jewel adhesive. So let me show you guys that really quick. So this is a thicker gel. So we're going to use this to adhere our tips to, or tips with. And so because we're using this little bit of a thicker gel, I want to make sure that I've got basically room underneath that tip. So I want to make sure that I'm not sizing it too small so that there's going to be just that little bit of space for that gel to fit underneath that tip. So again, if I were to go with that smaller size and have to press that down, I'm not going to have that extra space in the well. And probably what's going to happen is when I use that gel to adhere my nail, it's going to start to kind of lift it up just a little bit because there's going to be more product in between that natural nail and the tip. So again, this is why I'm going to go with that just a slightly larger size on a size 4, and I think that's going to be a good size for this nail. So let's put our size 5 away. Now, at this point, normally I would go through and size out the rest of the nails, and that's actually what I'm going to do with the rest of our different shapes. So you can kind of see how we size out the different shapes. But before we do that, I do want you guys to see something. Let me come in nice and close here. When I'm sizing out that tip, you can kind of see there's a little bit of that tip that doesn't quite fit perfectly up into my cuticle area. It kind of hangs over just a little bit. So just kind of right in this corner. We're going to go through, same thing up here. We're going to go through and we're going to customize these tips, but I always like to size all of them out first. So that way, again, kind of a speed technique. So I can go through, size out my tips all at the same time, and then I'll do all my customizing at the same time. So again, it's going to help you to kind of stay in more of a pattern. So that's why we're going to go through and size out all the rest of our nails here. But on our second nail, we're going to show you guys the full cover coffin nails too. And again, we're going to do a different shape on all of our different nails here so you guys can see all of our different kinds of full cover tips. Now, with our first nail, this one was a, what did we find? A size 4. So you can see there's a little number 4 right in that free edge area. There you go. So you can see that little number 4. Now, we're going to start with a number 4 as our possibilities, but it may not be the same size on this style of tip. So we're going to go, let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this one is also a size 4. You can see that down there. We're going to take a look here. Now this one actually feels like it's a little bit smaller in this style of tip. So just because this nail was a size 4 doesn't mean it's going to be a size 4 with this shape. Okay, now you guys, normally on a real person, all 4 of these nails tend to be a different size, but I know on my trainer hand they're all the same size. But it's a good way for me to show you that not every style of tip is going to fit on the nail exactly the same. So again, our size 4 on our square nail is not going to fit like a size 4 with our coffin shape nail. So that size 4 of the coffin shape is going to be a little bit smaller feeling. So I do want to go to a size bigger. So we're going to get a size 3 and we're going to check that. And now that one feels much better. It does feel like it's hanging off the edge just ever so slightly, but it's fitting my C-curve a lot better and I don't have to really press that C-curve down. So again, let me show you with the smaller size. With that smaller size, I would really have to use some pressure to get that tip to kind of set down on that nail. And then you can also kind of see how it flares out. And it kind of flares out. So let me see if I can, there we go. So when you press it down, it kind of flares out on the sides here. We don't want that nail to flare out because that's going to show me that it's a little bit too tight. Okay, so that's why we're going to go with the size 3 on this nail. Okay, so we're still going to do a little bit of customizing up around this cuticle area, but our C-curve is fitting really nicely, and I think everything else is going to fit really well with that one. Okay, so that's our second nail. Now notice I'm just kind of laying these nails out as kind of in the order that I'm going to use them. So this is our pointer, this is going to be our ring or our middle finger, and then we'll size out our ring finger. And then for our third style of nail, let's go with our stiletto. So now let me take a look again. So our first nail was a size 4 in the XL square. Our second one is a size 3 in the coffin shape. Let's see what our stiletto sizes are going to look like here. And I think we might as well start kind of right around that same sizing. So this one, I've got a, what is this one? This one is a size 3. I think that's a size 3. Yep. So let's check that one. All right, same kind of thing that I was experiencing with that coffin shape nail. I feel like the size 3 may be just a little bit on the tight side with that C-curve. So I'm going to go one size bigger. Now this one is actually going up to a size 2. So let's check that size 2. All right, now this size 2 is feeling a lot better than that size 3. Okay, now when you're sizing out your stiletto shaped tips, I want you guys to kind of notice something here as well. Right down here at that natural nail free edge, this is another reason that I trim those nails as short as I can, and I do kind of round that nail out a little bit right through here. Because when you're putting on those stiletto nails, do you see how it kind of comes in a little bit tighter? If I hadn't trimmed that down, what would happen, I'm going to kind of over exaggerate this, but do you see how this natural nail is showing and it's not being covered by that tip? That's what can happen if you don't trim that natural nail down. That free edge, we're just kind of simulating. So that little area here, we're assuming that was the longer free edge. Actually, you know what, you guys, let me put in another tip just so you can really understand this. So let me just swap this one out really quick, because it's really important when you are sizing out, especially those stiletto tips. If you try to put that tip on, do you see how much of that natural nail is showing underneath there? And that tip is not actually covering that natural nail. That's why we want to shorten up those natural nails so that we don't have that little bit of free edge hanging off. And we're going to get that perfect adhesion all the way through without that natural nail showing underneath, okay? All right, so I think I'm liking that size 2. That fits really nice on the C curve. Again, we're still going to do a little bit of customizing up around that cuticle. And we'll go ahead and set our stiletto nails aside. And our last shape that we're going to be showing you guys today is our full cover almond. So almond is just, it's a little bit shorter. And let's see, we'll grab, so we've got a size 2, we've got a size 3, and we've got a size 4 in all of our different styles. So let's see where the almond shape kind of fits in here. So let's just start with, what have I got? We've got a size 2. Size 2 it's looking pretty good. It fits really well onto that C curve, but it is kind of hanging off the sides quite a bit. So let me check a size 3. And grab our size 3. Again, I check my number right in that well, and that looks like a size 3. So let's take a look here. All right, this one is definitely fitting much better. It still fits that C curve. I still don't feel like I have to really use a lot of pressure on there. And it's fitting nicely from sidewall to sidewall. And this one, actually, I don't think I have a lot to customize on my edges, maybe just a tiny little bit to really make sure that it fits up into that cuticle area. But this one actually fits really, really nicely on this nail. So we're going to go with a size 3. So you guys, you can see what I've done here. I've sized out all of my different styles of tips so that you guys can see. Normally I wouldn't do all these different shapes on one client, but I do want you guys to see all of our different options here today. So you can kind of see how I've got those laid out. Now this is in the order that I'm going to be using them. So again, we've got our XL square, we've got our coffin shape, we've got our stiletto, and we've got our almond shape. So I've got these all laid out. They're ready to go and ready to customize. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to take each of those nails one more time, check that onto that natural nail, and see where do I need to file off any overhang. And I've got a little bit up into these corners that I'm going to take off. So we're going to go ahead and I've just got my 150 grit file. You can use a 150, 180, whichever one works for you. I tend to actually I like both of them. Just kind of depends on what is closest to grab easily. So I'm just going to kind of customize these, round out those corners a little bit to make sure that they're going to fit nicely up into my cuticle area. Now you guys, I am going to switch my file because I do like to use, we've got a 180 sponge file buffer combo. So it's got the file on one side and the buffer on the other. So as I'm working, I kind of like to use this to file around that cuticle area, but then as you file, you get a little bit of a frayed edge. So I just kind of wipe that frayed edge up, and then I'll use the buffer side of my file buffer combo here and just remove that that frayed edge a little bit. And we're going to check that sizing, check up into that cuticle area. Now you guys, I'm going to come in a little closer so you can see at this point, that cuticle area is nice and rounded. Okay, before it was hanging off the corners a little bit. By just doing a little bit of customization, I really am able to make sure that that tip fits right up into that cuticle area so nothing's hanging over the edges or anything like that. So going through and just customizing the sidewalls just a little bit, those lower arches just a little bit. And you guys notice that I always kind of remove that dust as I work. That way it's not getting onto the nail. Oops, and I'm gonna get a really, really good view. All right, that one looks like it's gonna fit right up into that cuticle area nicely. We'll set that one down. We'll go to our next nail, check our edges. Again, this one looks like it's hanging off just a little bit on those sides. So again, we're gonna take a little bit of that, kind of round out that corner a little bit. Take off that little bit that was hanging over and really customizing. And you guys, this is how I feel like when you're using the full cover tips, this is how you're gonna make them look a lot more, I always hate to use the word natural because we know that these aren't natural nails. They're not gonna look natural, but they're gonna fit a lot better. And they're not gonna look like press-ons. Okay, so do a little bit of customizing, making sure that everything is fitting up into that cuticle area, fitting from side to side, and really getting that nail nice and natural looking. We'll just say it, nice and natural looking. All right, you guys, so I'm gonna just keep customizing here. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm hoping that you're learning something here today. And if you guys subscribe, it just helps us to be able to give you guys more free education. So hit that subscribe button while I'm finishing up our customizing. And again, just kind of taking out those little frayed edges. We'll check. And you guys, I do check quite a bit. So I go back and forth from filing to checking, from filing to checking, because I don't want to file off too much. If I file off too much, then I'm going to have to grab a second tip and start all over again. So a little bit at a time. So customize a little bit at a time and then check. Make sure that it's fitting. If it's not, then you can take a little bit more off of there and customize a little bit more. So I think we're looking good here. We'll grab our last nail. This is our almond shaped nail. And again, just a little bit off of the edges on this one here. Same thing, a little bit off the edge over here. And let's take a look. All right, you guys. So far, what do you think? Which one is your favorite shape? I want you guys to let me know in the chat. Let me know, do you tend to go more towards the almond? Do you like to go towards the stiletto or the coffin shape or the square? Let me know in the chat. What's your favorite shape for now? So while you guys are letting me know that in the chat, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna finish prepping our natural nails. So at this point, all we've done is push back those cuticles and we've shortened and shaped that free edge. So now what I wanna do, let me set my tips off to the side here really quick so I don't knock those all off. See, a lot of different shapes. A lot of you guys are liking the almond, square, coffin shape. Well, I'm glad that we did all four of them today so you guys can see all of those different shapes. But again, we've pushed back the cuticles, we haven't removed the shine yet. That's what we're gonna do at this point. And I have my mandrel and sanding band in there, into my e-file here, but I am gonna change out my sanding band. I always wanna put in a new clean sanding band, whether it's on myself, whether it's on my clients. It's always important to use a brand new sanding band so that you have the proper amount of grit to that sanding band and it's not worn down, or if it's used and contaminated, you definitely don't want that either, okay? So we've pushed back the cuticles. We're gonna turn our e-file to about 5,000 RPMs. And let me come a little closer. And we're just gonna go through and we're gently going to remove the shine up around that cuticle area. And then we're gonna feather that bit all the way through that free edge, all the way through that natural nail. Just gently, you guys, all I'm really doing is basically making contact with the nail. I'm not using any pressure. I'm using a nice low speed. So it's just gonna gently remove the shine and kind of break up the oils in the surface of this nail. And this is as quick as your prepping should go. It shouldn't take you more than really 3 to 5 minutes to prep the natural nails. Now, if you do have a client that's got a little bit more cuticle work to do, maybe they're a little bit of a nail biter, something like that, it may take you just a little bit longer, but 3 to 5 minutes is about how long it should be taking. So if it's taking you 10, 15, 20 minutes to prep those nails, you might be repeating steps and things like that. So just kind of think about what you're doing to prep those nails. But really, that's all we need to do. So I'm going to grab my brush. This is just a clean manicure brush. We're going to dust off all of that dust from our nails. Get those nice and clean. And then we'll use our swipe to cleanse the nail. Now, swipe is, let me come back out here. So swipe is our cleanser. It is, it's going to take off the little bit of excess oils that might still be left on that nail. It's also going to get rid of any last tiny little dust particles on there, and it's going to take care of any germs or bacteria that are on the nail. So this is going to allow us to have a nice, clean, dry surface, no germs, no bacteria, so that we have really great adhesion of our product, and we're going to also have nice, clean nails. Okay, so make sure that you're really cleansing those nails well, and then we're going to wait until these nails look nice and dry. And you want to kind of, let me come in a little closer. That nail will come back to kind of that chalky look, and that's exactly what we're looking for. If you do see any moisture on that nail, give it just a little bit longer to dry before you go on to the next step. And what our next step is Protein Bond. Protein Bond is our bonder. It is not a primer. And I've had a lot of people ask me, oh, you guys, I got ahead of myself because I was going to tell you, I've had a lot of people ask me, can I use the Protein Bond to etch the well of the tip? And you guys, this is not an acid primer. This is a non-acid bonder. So this is not actually going to etch your nail. It's not going to etch the well of the tip. So you want to make sure that, that you're not trying to use the Protein Bond to etch the well of the tip. And I did almost forget to do that. So let me set my trainer hand off to the side. I want to make sure that that hand stays nice and clean. And then we're going to grab that E-file one more time. And we're going to go through and we're going to remove the shine from the well of the tip. So if we come in, you guys can see on those XL square nails, these are pre-etched in the well. The rest of these nails are not pre-etched. So you can kind of see the difference. Let me hold these up here. So you can see the difference between this one where it looks a little bit kind of a dull kind of a finish, whereas the rest of them, let me get that dust out of there, have that shiny finish in the well. Now, whether it has that pre-etched or still the shine in there, I always still go through and I will etch that surface, because when we are applying our tips with our tip and jewel adhesive, this is a gel that we're using, we want to make sure that we're applying it to a textured surface, not that shiny surface, because the gel is not going to want to stick to a shiny surface. So again, we're going to go through, we're going to remove the shine from all of our nails here, and I want to make sure that I am removing shine in that whole entire area that's going to come in contact with that natural nail. Now I'm going to show you in just a second. I'm going to go through and finish up these, and then I'm going to show you kind of how to check to make sure. But we'll just kind of do a pre-etch first, and then if we need to etch a little bit more, then we will do that. But just going through, kind of removing the shine, and then I'm going to dust these out. So get that extra dust out of there, making sure they're nice and clean. And then we'll check on our nails. Okay, so we've got our nails here prepped and ready to go. So I'm going to just measure this again. So I want to make sure that that etched area is completely covering that natural nail. If I had, let me just kind of over exaggerate this. If I had a little area of that natural nail that was kind of poking out that etched area, I would go back through and etch that tip again to make sure that that whole area is kind of textured. Okay, so that's our first one. Our second one, let's take a look here. So this one you can see there's just a little bit of that natural nail that is, or that the well is not etched, and that's where it's going to adhere to the nail. So I still want to go back through and etch just a little bit more of that. just to make sure that we've got a nice, completely textured area for this one to fit on. All right, so that one's looking good. Let's take a look at our stiletto here. That one, again, just a tiny little bit more that we need to do in here. So I'm going to do that one again. Let me check this almond, and same thing on that one. That's going to need just a little bit more there as well. So let's go ahead and do those both at the same time. So we'll take just a little bit more there and a little bit more for our stiletto. And I think that is going to be good. So let's take another look here. Check and see. All right, perfect. So that one's definitely covering all the way. And our almond shape, that one is covering all the way as well. That one's got a little piece of fuzz on there. So, all right, our nails are ready to go. Now, because we kind of went back and there may be a little bit of dust from our working here, I am going to take just a little bit more of that swipe, and we're going to cleanse these nails one more time just to really make sure that I didn't touch the nails, that my client didn't touch the nails, and we're going to have a really nice, clean, dry surface. And in the meantime, while we are waiting for these to dry, you guys make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep getting all of this free education. And now you can kind of see again, we're waiting for these to dry. This one up here has just a little bit more of that moisture right up there. So we're going to wait and make sure that they're nice and completely dry. And then we'll apply our protein bond. And protein bond works kind of like a double-sided tape. So this is going to stick to that natural nail, but it's going to leave a tacky surface for our gel to adhere to. Now, I want to make sure that I'm not over applying my protein bond. I don't want to put so much on here that it's going to flood up into that cuticle area or down along those side walls. So as I pick up my brush, I do kind of tap out some of that extra, and then I will apply this starting from the center of the nail, and then I work out to the side. So again, it's not going to flood down into those sidewalls or into that cuticle area. And we're just going to go through all of our nails, apply a nice even coat. And then when I work with our, pretty much with our hard gels, with our acrylics, if I'm doing enhancements, or if I'm using the tip and jewel adhesive to adhere tips, I like to do 2 coats of my protein bond just to really make sure that I've got great coverage with that protein bond and I've got a really good bond to the nail. So second coat is applied the same exact way. I start from the center, work out to my sides, and then back to my cuticle area. And you guys, you'll notice that I do kind of work in a routine. So as I work, I always know what's coming up next, and I tend to work from the pointer back to the pinky, and then I usually will do the thumbs after that. And again, that's kind of the routine that I get into so that I know exactly what's coming up next. I know exactly what nail I'm going to be working on next. And for me, it just helps me to kind of speed up my process so that I'm not questioning whether, what nail I'm on or where I'm going from this point. Okay. So I have all my tips laid out. I've got all the nails prepped and ready to go. We're going to go ahead and apply our tips with our tip and jewel adhesive. And I'm going to show you guys another little trick here. And let me grab one other nail really quick just so I can show you. Now, when you're applying your tip and jewel adhesive to the well of your tip, I see a lot of people just use the tip and they come in there and they scoop that out and then they use it from there and then they put it onto the nail. Now, you guys, it's a great technique. It works just fine. But personally, what I like to do instead, let me find my little spatula here. I'm going to grab this is our dual-ended brush and spatula. So on one end, it has a brush on it, and then on the other end, it has a little spatula. I like to use this to put my gel into the well instead, because when I have tried using kind of and scooping out that gel, what tends to happen to me is when I put that onto the nail, I tend to get a little bit of product squeezing out the end here, and then also on the sides. So when I press that down, you kind of see there's a little bit of product that squeezes out those edges. I don't want that product squeezing off the sides. So for me, I'm just going to clean this off my nail really quick here. And let me grab a little bit of swipe. So for me, what I like to do instead is I like to use that spatula, and I'm going to scoop out a little bit of my gel from the container. So we'll scoop that out, maybe just a little bit more. And then I'm going to turn my tip over and I'm going to set that right down into the well. I'm going to press that down the center and just kind of drag that down the end of that well. Now you can see I'm not bringing it all the way to the edges. I am going to just kind of scoot that over just a little bit towards the edge, but not all the way. So I'm just kind of filling in a little bit of that space. If I feel like I need a little bit more, which I think I maybe just need a tiny little bit more in there, I'm going to add a little bit more. Now again, I'm not putting that product all the way to the edge because as I apply my tip, what's going to happen is that gel is going to squeeze out to the sides, but because I have kind of that little uncoated area, it's not going to squeeze out the edge. It's only going to squeeze out to kind of that edge of the tip, but not beyond. So as I put my tip on, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start, let me show you guys this from the side. I'm going to start at a slight downward angle. I'm going to set my tip onto the nail, slide it back just a little bit so it comes up nice and close to my cuticle without touching, and then I'm going to rock that tip down onto the nail. Okay, I like to show you guys this from the side view first because it does kind of go a little bit quickly when I actually do the application. So I just want to start by showing you, start at that downward angle, touch it down, slide back to the cuticle, and then rock it down. Now when I am putting this on, I'm going to show you guys this from the front view. Let me come in a little closer. When I start a little ways away from the cuticle, so I don't put it right at the cuticle. The reason for that is because, again, when I press that product down, it can squeeze out a little bit of that product out the end. If I start at that downward angle and slide it back, it's going to scoot that product back up underneath the tip or underneath the well, and it's not going to squeeze out back onto my cuticle. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to do this, but one other thing I'm going to have, and let me just bring this in here really quick, and I'm going to zoom my camera out so you guys can see. This is our touch cure light. So this is a little kind of a curing light, and this is what I have kind of set to the side here. So I can actually use this to set my tips into place without actually having to get them into the big, the full curing light right away. So it's a great tool to have on hand. So I have that ready to go. And let's get our nails ready to go here. Okay, so I think we're ready to adhere our tip. Let me come in a little bit closer here. And somebody's asking, what gel is this? You guys, the gel that I'm using is our Tip and Jewel Adhesive. And it is a really, really thick gel, but it's great for if you've got maybe uneven nails or a little bit of spacing that you need to fill in. So it's a really great adhesive to use to adhere your tips. All right, so we're going to again start at that slight downward angle. I'm going to touch that down to the nail, slide back just gently to my cuticle area, and then I'm going to start to rock that nail down, and you're going to see that gel just kind of squeezing down towards the end. I'm going to just put a little bit more pressure by my cuticle area, making sure that that gel comes all the way to the end. I'm going to make sure that this tip is on straight. There we go. And then I'm going to bring in that touch cure light. I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to set this into place. Now you guys, let me back the camera out so you can see. I've got my little touch cure light on right here. Now if I was working on a real client, I would stay probably a good 6 inches away or so. If you come too close, right now I'm at about 1.5 inches to 2 inches away. That's probably going to cause a little bit more heat on that nail. So when you're working on a real client, keep that about 6 inches away so you don't get those heat spikes. But for camera purposes, I keep it a little bit closer so that you guys can see what's happening in the camera. But just make sure that when you are applying these on a real person, I would normally stay probably a good 6 inches away or so. So right about like this, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. And we're going to turn that light off. All you need is really maybe a 20 to 30 second freeze right there. And that's going to be enough to hold that tip into place. so that we can go through and we can adhere the rest of our nails. And once we have all of the tips on, then we will go back and put the hand into our full UV LED light, and then we're going to cure them all the way through. So at this point, we're just going to go back. Again, we're going to grab our gel, set that right into the well, slide that out to our edges, make sure we've got product almost all the way to the edge, but not quite. Making sure we've got enough gel in there. Same thing, come in a little closer. Start at, now you guys, you can kind of see there's a tiny little bit of that gel kind of poking out the end. You could either come back in with your spatula. Let me see if I can show you a little closer. So either come back in with your spatula, just kind of tuck that back down in there because we don't want anything poking out the end or squeezing out the end. Otherwise, when you go onto the nail, you can start at a little bit more kind of perpendicular to the nail, touch that down, and then just kind of tuck that little edge back under so that, again, that's not going to come in contact with their cuticle. Okay. All right, same thing. We're going to touch down, slide back just a little bit, press and rock that down, press that gel all the way down to the end. And we're going to hold that there, turn on our touch cure light. We're going to freeze this into place. Now you guys notice that I am kind of holding that with my nail. I'm not going to worry that it's not curing all the way through. It's going to cure the gel all the way around my nail. And then once it's kind of set into place, then I can move my finger and then it's going to cure the rest of that gel. But again, we are going to put this into our full UV LED light to do a final cure to make sure that these are adhered really well. So don't panic if you're holding on, holding on to that tip. It is going to cure around there just enough to set it into place. Tap our light, turn that off. We'll grab our stiletto nail. We'll grab a little bit more of our gel. And again, you guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep getting this free education. Guys, the more you guys subscribe, the more education we're going to give. So hit that subscribe button. Again, slide that product on there, bring it out to my edges, making sure I've got enough product all the way through there. Gonna tap those little edges back in, tap down that cuticle area, slide it back, and then rock that nail down. Pressure all the way through to really make sure I'm pressing out any air bubbles. I'm going to just make sure that that's nice and straight. And then we'll set that into place. All right, you guys, I want to know, those of you here in the chat, I want you to let me know in the chat if you think this is something that you'd be able to do. I want to know. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs up means, yes, I definitely could do this. Thumbs down is maybe I need a little bit more work or a little more education. So let me know in the chat. Can you do this? Is this something that you can do? Yes, definitely. Seeing some thumbs up. Yes, awesome. You guys, that's so great to hear because this really is a great technique. You don't have a lot of sculpting to do. Well, you don't really have any sculpting to do. It's really applying a full cover tip using a great adhesive. And these nails will wear for a good amount of time. Now you can definitely fill these. And I would use probably the fiber gel to fill them. But you can wear these on a longer basis if you are adhering them with just a regular glue or regular nail glue. That's going to be a little bit more of a temporary service, but because we're using our tip and jewel adhesive, these are going to be a little bit more of a permanent set. So you can definitely apply these. You could apply them to yourself. If you're a DIYer, they work great for DIYers. So yes, awesome, you guys. I love seeing those thumbs up because I really do think this is a service that anyone could do. It's super easy. They go on really quick and easy. They go on fast. You guys, we've been working here for about 45 minutes, almost 45 minutes. But if you're doing this on yourself, you could definitely get this done. You could get it done probably in an hour or so, okay? Now, at this point, all of our nails, we've set those into place, but we're going to go back into our light and let me show you where we got here. So now we're going to go into the light and I'm going to set my timer for 60 seconds. Oops, there we go. So that's going to go into the light and fully cure. Now, we did use our little touch cure light here to kind of set those into place, but that was just a quick freeze. Now we really need to make sure that they're completely cured out so that those nails are really adhered perfectly onto that nail. Now, we're going to close up our product here. And in the meantime, while that is curing out, what we're going to be doing next is just kind of maybe doing a little bit of customization. And I'm going to grab that 180 grit file buffer combo again. Again, you could use that 180, you could use a 150, and you guys, I actually need to grab a new 150 grit file because this one you can see I've used that quite a bit for demos here, but oops, those are my buffers. Make sure that when you do get a new file, let me show you here really quick. I always have my prep file. Let me find my prep file. So my prep file is just a file that this is all that I use it for. I just use it for prepping my new files. So when you get a new file, it's going to have a little bit of a sharper edge to it. So you want to make sure that you're using that prep file to kind of soften up those edges, making sure that you don't have those sharp edges anymore. And I start by kind of running my prep file over the top of that, and then I'll turn it over. So over the top, and then kind of catch just the little edges right across there. So this way I know I'm not going to cut skin. Okay. So either that 180 file buffer combo or that 150 file, whichever one is going to work best for you. So at this point, our nails have cured out, and if we need to, we can go through and we can kind of customize the shaping a little bit more. If we need to do any shortening, we can shorten them up. If we need to kind of taper in the sides at all, we can taper in the sides. And you guys, even with my square nails, a lot of times I kind of taper them in just a little bit because I just, this is a personal thing. I don't like that super square look. I like just a tiny little bit of taper. So it's up to you. If you want to leave that perfectly square, you can definitely leave that perfectly square. You can taper it in a little bit, but just making sure that everything is nicely shaped. And then I will go through and just catch that little edge. You can kind of see there's just kind of a little tag right at that end. That's just from how the tips are basically manufactured in the mold. So it's got that little end to kind of clean up. So always make sure, clean up your edges if you need to clean up those edges, straighten out your free edge at all if you need to, clean up your lower arches, and then again, just kind of take off that little tag at the end. Now we're gonna just finish these up here, just kind of cleaning up my edges. Now my stiletto, I generally don't have a lot of shaping to do, but again, I always check that little point just to make sure that little kind of frayed tag at the end is cleaned off. And I think we're good here. Same thing with our almond. Now at this point, you kind of can finish them however you want to. I think we're gonna do a quick, easy design for you today, and then I'm gonna show you kind of how to finish up the rest of them as a set. And we're gonna apply gel polish onto these. So if you are using gel polish, you wanna make sure that you are going through and removing the shine, just like we did in the well underneath, because anytime you adhere gel to a tip, if there is that shiny surface, gel is not going to stick to that shiny surface. So we want to make sure that we are completely removing that shine from that whole entire tip. Okay, so the whole entire extension. So you can also go through and kind of taper down that back cuticle area. So if maybe you have just a little bit of a ledge of that tip, you can file that so it's a little bit more flush down to that natural nail, so that you don't have kind of something to catch on the back there. So I'm just using this is our medium sanding band. So same thing that I was using to prep the natural nails, same thing that I used to prep the well of that tip. Just going through, removing all of that shine and tapering in that cuticle area. Now you guys, you can see on this one, let me come in a little bit closer here. You can see there's a little bit of that edge kind of hanging off. I am just going to gently go through and just kind of taper that down so that just comes nice and flush down to that natural nail. And it looks like maybe just this little edge didn't have that adhesive on it. And if that's the case, that's okay. It's not a big deal. You're just going to go through and see. Now you can kind of see it's going to kind of flake right off there. And then it's going to be perfect right flush down to that natural nail. Now I'm going to show you one other bit here really quick. I think I'm going to save that little edge, but I'm going to show you one other bit that you can use to get right up into that cuticle area if you're not able to get that with the sanding band. And we'll just finish up these two nails and then I'll show you that other bit, just so that we're kind of still staying in that same routine. And this is another speed technique, you guys. If you are constantly switching out your bits, going back and forth, that's going to take you extra time. But by keeping in mind that I know that I want to come back to this nail, but I am going to finish out the rest of these, so I'm only going to have to change my bit one more time. I'm not going to change it out to clean this up and then change it out to put my sanding band back in. I'm just going to change that one time. So finishing up this nail, removing that shine, making sure everything is flush down to that natural nail. All right, I think we're good there. So I'm going to change out my sanding band, and I'm going to grab my diamond cuticle square bit. And I absolutely love this one for working up around that cuticle area. Any of those last little kind of edges there, you can clean up with this bit. So this one's going to get right up into that cuticle area. It's not an aggressive bit, so even touching my skin like this, it's not going to damage that cuticle, but it is going to be enough of kind of an edge to get right up into that cuticle area. And down along those sidewalls, if there is anything that you need to kind of customize or clean up, this is the bit to get right up in there. All right, I think we're good on there. And I think we're ready to do some fun stuff on these nails. So I'm going to go back, grab my manicure brush. We're going to clean these all up. And you guys, you can definitely finish these however you want to finish them. If you feel like you need a little bit more strength to these nails, if you need a little bit more durability, if you're going to be wearing them for a longer period of time, you could go through and add a little bit of our fiber gel, which is it's a thin gel, but it's got a little thickness to it because it has microfibers within it. So you can use that to add a little bit more strength and durability over these. But for today, I'm just going to finish these with a little bit of art and a little bit of gel polish. So before I do that, I'm actually going to turn my table towel over here. I'm going to fold that over so I have a nice clean area to kind of work in at this point. Get rid of some of that dust and all of the little kind of dust pieces that may be floating around there. Now, I am going to go through and cleanse these nails one more time, but this time I'm not going to use my swipe. Swipe is what we use to cleanse that natural nail. What I'm going to use at this point is our Manicure Cleanse. Now, the reason that I'm using the Manicure Cleanse versus the swipe has a little bit of acetone to it. We've already gone through and created texture on our nails, and if we cleansed with too much swipe, the swipe having that little bit of acetone to it could kind of smooth out that surface too much. So that's why we're going to use the Manicure Cleanse, because it does not have any of that acetone. So it's going to give us a nice clean surface without smoothing it out too much. And just a little bit, you know, we're not trying to go through and really scrub this, but just by using that little bit of the Manicure Cleanse, it's going to help to make sure that there's no dust left on the nails. And we're going to go back with one more coat of our protein bond over the whole entire nail. And this is going to help a little bit more with our adhesion for our gel polish. So again, staying a little ways away from that cuticle. So again, you can kind of see that I do start towards the center of the nail. Now, this being a longer nail, I do want to use a little bit more of that protein bond to make sure that I've covered the whole entire surface. But again, still staying away from that cuticle area, making sure that I'm not flooding it into the cuticles and the sidewalls and touching the skin. Always avoid touching the skin. Any product that you're using, whether it's acrylic, gel, gel polish, whatever it is, You always want to try your hardest to keep that product off of the skin so that we don't have any issues with contact dermatitis or allergic reactions or things like that. So even though it's a non-acid bonder, it still is a chemical, and you still want to make sure that you're staying away from the cuticles and the sides. All right, you guys, let me grab some colors here. And colors that I've got are from our Mission Control Gel Paint collection. And I've got Solar, which is our yellow, Mega Jam, kind of a bright fuchsia, and Sonic, which is one of my favorites, kind of a teal color. So I've got all three of my colors. And I'm going to just open those up. And again, you guys, this is going to be a really quick and easy design. So we did a quick and easy application with our full cover tips. Now we're going to do an easy art design. So I'm going to grab a couple of things here. I'm going to grab a couple of little table towels to set off to the side. Now I can either use my table towels, or sometimes I also like to have a little art palette off to my side. I can use either of those to clean out any of the extra gel from my brush. So what we're going to do kind of a watercolor inspired look today, just by using these three colors. Come in nice and close so you can see. And I'm just going to start by picking up a little bit of that yellow. We're going to start with that right up by my cuticle area. And again, you guys, you can kind of see I start a little ways away from that cuticle and then kind of work back towards it. So I'm not getting that product on the skin, just like I was talking about with the protein bond, just like we talk about with any of the gels, any of the acrylics. You want to make sure you're keeping your product away from the skin. So we're just going to kind of feather that through, and I'm just going to kind of blend out the edge of it. And you guys, don't worry if it's not a perfect blend. That's totally fine. I'm going to clean out my brush, get a little bit of that extra gel paint from there. We're going to pick up a little bit. Oops, not that color. You guys, I always put my colors in the order that I'm going to use them. So that's why when I went to the pink, I was expecting to use that next, but I actually wanted that teal next. So make sure if it helps you to kind of do your designs a little bit easier, put your colors in the order that you're going to use them. Okay. So we're going to pick up that teal, and we're going to blend that in. And again, you guys, it doesn't have to be a perfect ombre or anything like that. Just kind of bringing those colors together. I'm going to clean out that extra. Now we're going to go to that bright pink, bring that down onto the end. And then this is where it gets kind of fun, you guys. I'm going to clean out my brush a little bit. And I'm just going to start, you can start at the free edge and work back. You can start at the cuticle and work forward. I'm just going to kind of start to pull that product from one end to the other, just kind of blending that out. I'm going to clean out my brush. Maybe we'll start to pull some of that yellow down. Just kind of blending that together. And again, you guys, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can see how all of those colors are just kind of blending together, kind of coming together. And I will tell you guys, the challenge with working in this design is knowing when to stop. Because what can happen is the more you blend them, the more kind of one color it's going to become. So you want to make sure that you're not over blending. And that's kind of why I clean out my brush a little bit as I go. Because if I over blend, we're going to kind of get a brown on this nail. I'm going to be honest. You got all three of your kind of colors from the color wheel. So if you blend too much, it's going to go brown. So make sure once you like how that color is looking, stop, leave it. And all right, you guys, I think just right through there. I think I'm liking how this looks. And so I'm actually going to cure this into place. Now you could cure this with the touch cure light and freeze that into place, or you can go into the full UV LED. I think for now, let's go ahead and go into the light. So we're going to go in there and freeze that into place for, I would say on this one, for at least 30 seconds, because we do want to make sure that this is set into place before we go on to the next step of our design. And I am going to close up my colors here. We're done using those. And I always try to clean up as I go. So this way I don't have too much clutter on my station and I don't have products everywhere that I may knock off my station. And let's see, I think that was almost 30 seconds. So we are good to go. Now at this point, because we're using the mission control, it's not fully cured, but we don't have a sticky surface at this time, okay? So we can go on to the next step of our design, which is going to be a stamp. So you guys, this is a great background for your stamping designs. So if you've got our stamping plates, we're going to be working with our boho designs today. Just kind of a fun, springy kind of a design. And I was kind of testing these out and seeing kind of which ones I was liking. And I was considering either the butterfly or the flowers. You guys, you can really create whatever you want to create, whatever jumps out at you. But I think we're going to go with the flowers. And I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to get my stamper out. I'm going to get my cleaner out. So I want to make sure that my stamper tool is nice and clean. So we'll make sure that's nice and clean here. And I'm also going to make sure my plate is clean. You can see I've got a little bit of polish on there from the last time I used it. So I am going to take a little bit of our onto the next polish remover. And we'll clean this plate off. Make sure that you have that whole plate clean, because I think a lot of times people don't clean their stamping plates really well, and then they have a little bit of extra residue in the design. You can kind of see there was a little bit more of that black paint on there. It's actually polish. And if I had that, especially in these finer, more intricate designs like this, if I had any of that old polish residue in there, it's going to kind of keep me from being able to pick up a nice clean design. So I always want to make sure to go through and make sure that the stamping plates are really nice and clean. Okay. Somebody is saying in the chat, stamps never work for me. This actually could be a reason that it's not working for you. If, again, you have that little bit of polish residue in there, it's not going to pick up a clean design for you. The other thing that you have to remember when you're doing stamping is you have to work fast. So you can't be putting your polish on there, dawdling along, and then maybe scrape and scrape and scrape and scrape. If you scrape more than one time, chances are you're going to take out too much of that polish. And then if you also wait too long, so if we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you try to go and pick up your design, it's going to already dry in that plate. So again, making sure your stamping plate is clean and making sure that you work quickly, that's how you're going to be able to pick up your designs. So I'm going to grab my black polish, and this is called Look Don't Touch. So this is our black polish, and this is just a traditional air dry polish. This is not a gel polish that I'm using today. So we're going to grab our design here. I'm actually going to turn it this way because this is the direction that I'm going to adhere it or apply it to the nail. So we're going to start with our black polish here. I'm going to add a good amount of that. I want to make sure that it's going to come all the way through that whole design. I got my stamper ready to go. I'm going to scrape through this. We're going to scrape, wipe my stamper off. I'm going to pick up that design. Now you guys, I'm going to take a look here. I want you to kind of see something. And you can look through the base of it. I actually like to take off that little plastic piece from the base. You can see my design is not quite centered in there. So I want to make sure that when I put this onto the nail, I actually do look through the center of that stamper so that I can line up my design exactly where I want it. Now, at this point, I've been talking and kind of waiting, and that design has started to dry on the stamping plate or on the stamper. So at this point, I'm not going to try to use this because it may not completely adhere to that nail while it's dry like this. So I'm going to clean that one off. We're going to do this one more time. And you guys, sometimes it does help to see it a second time or a third time. But again, clean out your stamping plate really well, get all of that residue out there. And one other thing I want to show you guys that maybe you didn't see, let me come back out here. So when I do my stamping, you kind of see I've got a little bit of that extra polish over to the side. I will scrape that wipe my scraping card off the side here, so that way it's not drying completely on the scraping card. Now you can go back through with polish remover and clean that off, but I like to just kind of do it in one motion so that it's just a little bit easier at the end. Okay. All right, so we're going to go through. I'm actually going to, you can kind of see my stamper is kind of squished down into the holder. I like to make sure that that is up a little bit farther so that it's going to sit onto the nail when I apply that color. Clean that off really well. All right, let's go ahead and apply one more time. Get enough of our color on there. Come in a little closer so you guys can see. All right, so again, enough of our polish on there. We're going to scrape, wipe, pick up our design. I'm going to look through and I'm going to line that up right onto our nail. All right, now there are a couple of edges here. You can kind of see this edge. Let me come in a little closer. So this edge kind of came off the side a little bit. I'm going to grab my cleanup brush. And what I like to use, this is just one of our old art brushes. And I'm going to use a little bit more of that onto the next polish remover. And I'm going to pump a little bit of that up into the top cup. Come on, there we go. So a little bit into the top cup, and then I can use that as just kind of a little eraser. So coming back in here, I come in so I can clean up those edges, anything that came off the side, clean up that polish off of those sides. Now here's another thing, you guys. If you find that maybe there was a little bit of the design, you can kind of see down on our plate, we picked up a little bit of the other design. I don't want that on there. That's okay. I can take that cleanup brush a little bit and just clean that off. Just remove whatever little pieces and parts you don't want on there. Same thing up at the top here, that little extra line. Get a little bit more of my polish remover and just clean that up. So I think our design is good. What do you guys think? You like the choice of design? Let me know in the chat. Let me know if you like our kind of boho flower look. All right, so at this point, we can go ahead and top coat this, but I'm going to show you guys how I would finish off the rest of a set. Because you guys always ask, well, what color would you do with the rest of the nails? What would you do to finish up the rest of the set? And you guys, I've chosen a couple of different colors today. Today I've got Aquamarine 101 and I've also got Magenta 101. So these are both from our Manicure color collection, and it's a 3-step gel polish collection. So I'm kind of using colors that are sort of in the base color on our design here. So you could use both of these colors, you could use one of these colors, whichever one you want, you could definitely do. So just to finish a nail with a full cover gel polish, we don't need to do an extra base coat unless you feel like you need a little bit more durability to these nails. So you could go ahead and do a coat of your fiber gel, you could do a coat of your Manicure base, your conversion base, whichever one you want to do is totally fine. I think we're going to do 2 of our aquamarine and maybe 1 of the magenta. But again, you guys, how you choose to finish your nails is totally up to you. Choose your colors that you like, but I kind of chose these colors because they were already in that design. And we'll grab our Magenta 101 and finish up our color here. Now, when I'm polishing, you guys can kind of see, I do a little bit of kind of a swipe through the nail. That's going to take off kind of that bead of polish. And then I kind of press my brush down so it fans out a little bit more. And then I kind of do a little wiggle so that it gets up nice and close to that cuticle. And then I kind of hold down along my side walls. Same thing, wiggle, push up to my cuticle, down around my side walls, and then kind of feather through the rest of that color. Okay, now you guys, I'm going to show you something really quick here that you can do. If you're having a challenge getting your color all the way up into that cuticle area, I'm gonna just take my, this is our, whoops, let me grab my other one. All right, so this is our micro detailer. So you could use either micro detailer or you could use our liner brush, whichever one you like, whatever works for you. I'm gonna take a little bit of those colors and put a little dab of them right onto my mixing tile. And let me grab our magenta. So this way, if you do need to, you can use that liner brush and just come right up around that cuticle area. If you need to catch a little bit closer on the sidewalls, you can use this up around the sidewalls, just to make sure that you're getting enough of that color as close up into that cuticle area as you can without touching or without it flooding into the cuticle. So just nice and close around there. Touch up this one as well. And then we'll get these back into the light to set them into place. All right, so we're good there. Again, we'll get those in, and this is gonna go in for another 30-second freeze, and then we'll do our second coat. Now, if you wanna get a little bit more crazy, you can always add a glitter press on top of these. Let me find a color here really quick. We'll go ahead and grab, let's see, I've got I Spill It. This is just a really pretty glitter. I think that's gonna go really nicely with our magenta. Or if you wanted to do maybe something with the blue or with the aquamarine, Fame Orbit is a really pretty color. You could do your glitter press with that. But just depending on how you want to finish out this look, I can go back through second coat of our color all the way through, making sure to catch those edges up around our cuticle, all the way down. And just kind of feathering out that color to make sure I get really good even coverage. We'll get our second nail. Again, nice and close to our cuticle, pulling forward. And again, you guys make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our content, if you're enjoying this design, if you're thinking that this is something that you can do on your own nails, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And that way we can get you guys more education in the future. So the more of you that subscribe, the more education we're able to give. All right, we got our second coat of color. And we'll go back in the light for one more freeze of 30 seconds. And in the meantime, in those 30 seconds, I am going to, again, close up my polishes here, but I'm gonna grab my glitter brush. And you guys, this is just a cheap little eyeshadow brush. Make sure it's just that you only use it for the glitter. Don't use it for your actual eyeshadow. But if you're gonna do a glitter press, we'll use the Fame Orbit today. I feel like that's gonna be a good color. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use that makeup brush. And I think our nail's good here in the light. So with this gel polish, it does have a tacky finish to it. And we're gonna just basically apply our glitter into that tacky finish. Now let's see, do we wanna do, I think we'll do our glitter on our stiletto. So what I'm gonna do to apply the glitter, I'm gonna go into the glitter, onto the nail, into the glitter, onto the nail. So you're gonna go back and forth and back and forth. So that way you're not actually touching your brush to that tacky surface. If you do touch your brush to that tacky surface, what's gonna happen is your brush is going to kind of get gunked up and you may not have a nice, perfect, smooth application, which is okay, but we wanna make sure that this is nice and smooth. Now that I have glitter, on the whole nail, I'm just kind of brushing off the extra. And then this way, it's also gonna help to kind of press that glitter down. But I am gonna go back to using my little stamping tool. And let me make sure that this is nice and clean here again. And then I'm gonna use that stamping tool to really press down that glitter, making sure that the glitter is flat down onto the nail and it's not poking up at all. So just a quick, easy way to set that glitter down. And then let's come in with I'm just gonna grab my manicure top coat. I'm going to do actually 2 coats of top coat on this nail here with the glitter. Our first coat of top coat is gonna help to seal that glitter down. And then we'll do a second coat of top coat to really make sure that the nail is nice and smooth and finished nice and smooth. So we got our first coat on. We're going to go back into the light, freeze that into place one more time. Again for another 30 seconds. And those of you that know what time it is, go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. And if you're new to our channel, again, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and then we can go ahead and do the top coat chant in the chat. And all it is just typing in top coat, top coat, top coat. And it's just kind of our way to finish up our nails and show you guys the fun of top coat. And today I'm going to go back to using my Ultimate Finish top coat, and we'll use this as a nice, quick, easy finish to our nails. Oh, you guys, you know what? Just for a little bit more fun, let's use our tack-free or our matte non-tack top coat on one of our nails here, just so you guys can see another option when you are doing full set designs. So on our design nail and on our sparkly nail and maybe on our magenta nail, I'm going to use just our regular Ultimate Finish top coat, but then we're going to do that matte finish top coat on our middle nail there, just to kind of show you guys other options that you can add in when you're doing your full sets. So having a nail that is the matte finish, I love doing that because it just adds, I always call it, it adds interest. It just adds a little interest to the nails. So again, we're going to grab our tack-free matte top coat. We're going to apply that to our middle nail here. Oh, looks like this one had just a little bit of those rogue glitters that decided they wanted to join the party on this nail, but that's okay. And then again, we're going to do our second coat of top coat, just our Ultimate Finish top coat on our glitter press nail. And then one coat of our Ultimate Finish on our magenta nail. And we're going to go into the light. This is going to cure for a full 60 seconds. And let me grab that little frayed piece there. So again, this is going to go into the light for a full cure of 60 seconds. But you guys, for today, I'm just going to pop that in there for 30 seconds. And then I'll show you the finished look so you guys don't have to wait that whole entire 60 seconds on there. But make sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, get this great free education. And you guys, let me know in the chat. Again, is this something that you think you could do as a full set on yourself? Give me a thumbs up if you think you could do this. And I hope to see lots of thumbs up there. Make sure it's the thumbs up, you guys, not another finger. I don't want to see that. All right, so we've got our set completed. So now you can see, let me take that a little bit. There's a little bit of polish right up top here. We'll clean that off. But you can see now that we've got that beautiful watercolor design with our stamper or our stamped on design. We've got our matte finish, we've got our glitter press, and we've got our solid color. So you guys, again, most of the time you're probably not going to be doing all of these different lengths and shapes on our nails, but I did want to show you guys all of the different options that you have for doing either your nails or your client's nails. And hopefully, you guys, I am seeing a lot of those thumbs up in the chat. So if you do this do this design on yourself or on your clients, make sure to post it on your social media and tag Young Nails so that we can see exactly how you guys are doing the nails. So we'd love to see your guys' other designs that you're doing. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get notifications when we do go back live again. We're usually here live about 3 times a week. So make sure to join our community, and we will see you guys back next time. Thanks, everybody.